If it did not have the respect and prestige, then it would not have survived 100 years.
You can't minimize the impact of the journal um, through the years.
It never narrowed its interest in a methodology. It never expected a unilateral focus for a particular approach.
Sociology with Michael Schudson, economics, organizational theory.
It always allowed for this openness to alternative methods, to interdisciplinarity, to transdisciplinarity.
Collection for each region, like South America, Africa, Asia, and so on, Europe.
Emphasis on women, international issues, research areas, different types of curriculum, just topics that can inform us as educators.
It gave our community the voices that it needed to continue to grow.
If you publish in JMCQ, that means you're one of very few scholars who have been able to publish their work in our journal. Publishing in JMCQ gives you a seal of quality.
Yeah, Dan is the one that invited me to become the associate editor. Yeah. He was the editor-in-chief at the time.
I served as editor when the journal made the transition from snail mail, 4 paper copies stapled together, hand or postman delivered, put it on my desk.
So he invited me to become associate editor. I was kind of being persuaded by him because he's really very persistent.
I guess 4 or 5 years into my editorship, we started accepting digital copies of manuscripts, attached to an email.
Saying that I can do the job, and at that time I don't think that I'm ready, but I decided, okay, let's give it a try and see how it works, because he promised it won't be too much work. It's not that much work. Most of the work is the editor.
But it wasn't long after that till we got into the full online portal submission process.
This is what Journalism Mass Communication Quarterly looks like today.
It was JMCQ. Actually, JMCQ was not called JMCQ. It was called Journalism Bulletin.
I think I started working on the board back in Don Shaw's days.
Don Shaw had been editor right before me, but for a very short term. He had a number of other projects going.
One thing that we should mention that in addition to our research articles, we also publish book reviews. And that's an important part that has been with the journal.
My goal was to really expand the content of the journal.
But of course, being the editor-in-chief is very different from the associate editor. Really much more work. I see what he said. So.
Each editor has kind of a different personality.
Nixon, Stemple, Don Shaw, So not only were those names important in our theory, they were important in our journal.
Guido Stemple, who had been editor for many, many years, once said that his goal of the journal was to publish as many manuscripts as possible to help people get tenure.
When I began in the field back in the late 80s, it was a very small group that published in the journal.
And it was a different time. It was a time when people were trying to recognize journalism as an academic endeavor. And so he was really motivated to have a journal that represented journalism, and he did a lot of very short pieces.
Now, fast forward several decades now, and I think you see many more international people.
Mass communication and journalism is a family. We are a family. AEJMC, in all of its craziness, in all of its diversity, it is a type of family.
We were welcoming and encouraging authors to kind of look outward from journalism and mass communication the narrow literature of JMC itself.
And then beige color, but still very very boring design, okay?
And look outward towards complementary disciplines that had emerged.
I think that people respect it, and that's why it has been able to be around for that long, because I am sure that there are other journals that have come and gone in that span of time.
This is the Centennial issue of the journal that I'm very proud of. It's a special issue co-edited by John Nam Kim and Homero Gil de Zuniga.
All right, let me tell you about the JMCQ peer training program. I was a member of its debut class, and I was selected the first year of my PhD work.
The research in journal JQ has been always, here's what the media are doing, and could we be doing news work better?
They were doing very exciting things with this research, and so it brought what I was reading on paper to life.
We have about 100 scholars on our editorial board, and they're listed inside the journal.
JMCQ was the best journal ever. There's no other opinion here.
Name is much more like curvy, okay, not so straightforward, and also the design is much more modern.
When I entered the tenure track, I was told that this is the journal that you should try to have an article published in.
We need to get published in this journal, and that they shouldn't listen to their leaders in the institution and should instead follow their heart and their discipline and publish in the best place.
I can remember being a young professor at Carbondale, and I would get something published, and my venue of choice was always JMCQ, because I knew that was the one that really reached the most members.
The journal has been around for 100 years, and we are very, very, very proud of that tradition.
I say that as just a small anecdote to say, fast forward some years later, and it still is the same thing. I still value JMCQ above all others because of what it brings to our family.
So it is very well respected, and I think that that's one of the years that it has been around for 100 years.
This is, I think, a momentous time in our society, and I think journalism plays an incredible role.
There's never a definitive answer, because what we do, what we study is fluid, it's flexible.
And we are the educators on many levels.
It evolves, and I think that's what the journal needs to be.
We often study propaganda, right? We study disinformation, slander, libel. We are the experts in understanding what those practices can do.
We need to teach students how to think critically about what is happening in the world and how to relay that information.
Our journal is the very outlet that can, in fact, showcase how authentic selves, i.e., authentic research in a variety of voices, come together to bring the future of democracy that we want.
And on a grander scale, we need to somehow keep the media accountable.
And a place that encourages and nurtures people to try those kinds of things that might deal with new directions, new social issues, new media, new kinds of sampling, new kinds of measurement. It's got to be open for that.
Before we end this year, I want to make sure that I send my appreciation to not only the current editor of JMCQ, but all the editors of JMCQ that brought it to this point, that kept it sustaining our scholarship, that trained our graduate students, that gave us tenure, that awarded us promotion. It means so much more than I think any one editor or producer or publisher or copy editor even realized. And I just want to thank everybody who has brought JMCQ to this point.